Welcome back to another episode of Built Different Podcast with Levi Warner. Today I am joined with my friend David Hori. He is out of Meridian, Idaho. Um, on this show, we talk about real operators, business owners, and what actually works. No fluff, just the execution. Today's going to be a fantastic call with something I'm interested in as I'm getting older. We're talking about business acquisitions. Most owners think their business is worth way more than it is, not because they're wrong, but because they've never seen it from the buyer's perspective. So today, David from Top Line Operators is going to kind of walk us through that and break down the ins and outs. So welcome, David. Maybe give us a brief little introduction.
Yeah, Levi, thank you for having me. I'm excited to share a Friday afternoon with you. And
Yeah.
you know, I'll share the pieces of my background that might be most relevant to your audience. For the last 10 years, I've been in tech startups, which on the surface might not sound that relevant, but one of them happened to be a company called Pro.com, which is a residential construction GC that I joined when we were about 20 people and grew it to about 200 people. That's usually where I joined startups and exited, where I'd made the most impact I could and moved on to the next one. And Pro.com was ultimately sold in the last 5 years to Opendoor, which you might have heard of, being in the
Yep.
real estate game. And so that was one of the most relevant experiences I've had in building a company in the industry, and coming out of three startups that ultimately were sold to large buyers. I decided the best way I can bring my experience to my community, my neighborhood, and make the biggest impact with my expertise is buying businesses. And I accidentally kind of stumbled also into coaching business owners. So that wasn't ever the goal, that wasn't the plan. But I was talking to so many business owners about buying their business that had no clue where to start and weren't quite ready. And I was teaching them. I thought, wow, there's a real opportunity maybe to add value as a coach as well.
I love that. And especially being in the real estate construction world. And what makes us different, I always say, is I'm running a business. I'm not just out with a tool belt on framing houses and stuff like that. Because I started as a salesperson. I've been a realtor for 25 years, and so I don't have the skills to go out and do the labor, but I'm able to manage and run the business. So a
Mhm.
lot of people think, these guys that own construction companies that's named John Smith Construction, they started just, trying to get work, and they're not thinking 30 years down the road when they're
Right.
when they're looking to sell it.
100%.
So the one thing that really stuck out to me, David, was that oh, did we lose you? Oh, there he is. Um, the one thing that really stuck out to me is to think like a buyer. And
Mm.
we teach as a salesman when we're looking at houses, and as a sale, when we're building spec houses, we want to look through this perspective of the buyer. So, it's interesting that you say that with businesses as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kind of walk us through what made it click with you when you're working with your operators. Like that's how they should start looking at it.
So I'm not going to tell you from or any business owner that your perspective is wrong, but I can tell you what is going to attract the most number of buyers, which is going to help you ultimately maximize the exit on the business that you've probably spent years, if not decades, building. And the thing that may resonate with people that are coming in your audience from more of a real estate perspective is ultimately I'm looking through the lens of risk. Risk is the primary lens. And then the second one is cash flow. So I'm a cash flow buyer, and I've found in connecting with a lot of real estate investors, they're looking very closely at the DSCR on a potential investment property. If they're looking at buying a home for a rental, for instance, they want to know, does this cash flow, does this pencil out? And so actually, real estate investors have become one of my favorite sources of potential capital for business acquisitions. But it really comes down to, okay, I understand that you've built a successful business and you can run it. What are the risks associated with me taking over this business and you either reducing your involvement in the business or exiting entirely? And how do I de-risk that? And if there's a lot of risk, that's going to get priced into my offer. That's going to adjust what I can offer you. Or certainly, I'm going to look to tie a part of that exit price to the outcomes that I consider to be most risky. Does that answer your question?
It does, it does. And when you're dealing with a lot of like the construction end, a lot of these, it's hard to make that business sellable.
Hmm.
To especially if you're John Smith Construction and you just have a trailer and tools in it. But if you do it right and get someone like yourself to coach you, there's ways to do it.
100%.
Yes, and so when you first started looking at a business, what do you see in the first 5 or 10 minutes of the deal that is either a red flag or the light bulbs start going off that you like this deal?
Yeah. Well, one thing that is going to be certainly high level financials. When you start shopping your business around, every potential buyer is going to want to look at what are the financial trends. You don't have to have perfectly clean books, everything accounted for, all your receipts are accounted for, but I want to see the financial trends. And is it going generally up, down, flat? Like that tells me a story. And then beyond that story, you could be trending down and have a very good reason that ultimately I don't care that much about, right? I
Right.
literally was negotiating a business acquisition for a business that's been on a down run for the last 2 years, but I can still offer over $5 million for the business because the business model itself was very simple. I could understand the inputs. There wasn't a lot of other risk, and it just needed the right operator in place to really turn things around. So that's not a deal breaker. People think, oh, I need to be on an uptrend. That helps. And that's going to attract more buyers, but that's not a deal breaker. And the other thing that in the trade specifically that's going to be important is owner dependence. And that's when you're talking about John Smith Construction, what we see most often is a business owner that has made a great living, right? It's like multiple six figures, even seven figures, running a construction company. But if most of it relies on you or all of it, you're selling a job. You're not selling a business. And I can't buy a job. Because like you, I can't throw belts on and swing a hammer. So
Yeah. Yeah, and it's funny too because when you say about the financials, because like, and I'll use my business as an example as a home builder, interest rates play such a huge role in our business to
Mhm.
where, when the interest rate was 8.5%, obviously our cash flow was down, our sales were down. But a real savvy investor will see those trends and know what they're looking at.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
and know that we were able to survive that time.
And that's a strong signal. Businesses that have been around a long time, why is that potentially valuable to an investor or a business buyer? Because if you've been able to sustain economic downturn, COVID, supply chain issues, tariffs, if you've been able to weather those, it's very likely you're going to continue to persist. And that's, again, a really strong signal for a potential buyer.
Absolutely, I'm sure. And this will be kind of a fun one. What do owners think add value to their business that really doesn't?
This is going to be a contrarian take. Um, I think not all revenue is good. And so people point at the revenue a lot and they want to they want to build a multiplier based on revenue. They want to build on potential revenue, and not all revenue is good. And I will see this where because they want the line to go up and to the right, they will take on more customers, more work, they'll offer more service product lines and things like that. And what I'm seeing again through the risk lens is you've overextended yourself. And I'm looking now at can you actually deliver on this? The revenue looks great. That's
Mhm.
awesome. But did you put yourself in a bad position, in a precarious position where you are overextended or fragile because now you're driving too far away and your crews can't really cover that, or because you're getting into an area that you're not as familiar with or confident in bidding and estimating. Those kinds of things. Not all revenue is created equal. I think that's my contrarian take.
Absolutely. That makes sense. And because as entrepreneurs, we have a hard time keeping our fingers out of the cookie jar when we see that revenue. we see those dollars going out, so it's hard for us to not want to go get that, and you can spread yourself real thin.
Mhm.
And where like I've seen builders try to start a cabinet line, or all these things, or that might look, they just take up a bunch of time, and it's out of their that area of expertise. Uh,
100%. Yeah.
or they go start a carpet cleaning company just to get the cash flow up.
Well, and another one is signing clients that you have that sneaky suspicion in your background, you're in the back of your mind that like, I don't think that I should take this one on. You know that that customer is going to be the one with all the change orders and that they're going to be like nitpicking every single little thing that costs you time and money that ultimately erases the profit margin, right? So, um, it's important not to just take on not every customer is a great customer for you. So,
And I'm guilty of that. I
100%.
have a hard time saying no. And and we're and when you're looking at these businesses to buy, what I'm trying to implement is all the SOPs and getting everything streamlined. So when the time does come, the everything's in place and I don't have to be there. Is that something that buyers are protection they're looking for?
Absolutely. That's what I led with is like that owner dependency. One
Yeah.
of the best ways you can reduce owner dependency is to put in place systems and process. And so a lot of people think that like, oh, I've got to hire this big team if the business isn't going to rest squarely on my shoulders. You can and people can do it, but what's most important is that they're running or whoever it is running with systems and processes and not highly specialized ones that average Joe can come into and plug into and be like, oh, I'm going to get this project 80% of there because we got the blueprint, we got the playbook. And that's exactly the right place to be investing, and often the thin edge of the wedge that I advise business owners like yourself when we're working together is start with some systems and processes to free up your bandwidth and get your focus elevated to more strategic things.
Yeah, and just from my experience, doing this podcast with business owners, and I've been in business for over 20 years, is people think, business owners, we think we can hire more people and they're going to put the SOPs in place. And what we've learned in the Dan Martell group, is get the systems in place and then plug the people in to run those that playbook. Because if you're relying on somebody else to make those SOPs, then you're just kind of spinning your wheels and you're just throwing employees at problems that are going to be problems later.
Yeah, and I would take that a step further. Again, construction, the trades, they aren't exactly early adopters of AI,
Yeah.
but it's really tempting to see AI as that other kind of magic pill that you can take where it's like, oh, my business is a mess. I'm going to dump everything into an AI and it's going to like spit out something amazing and save me tons of time and effort and I won't have to hire those people or, they can use AI. Not necessarily. If you don't have a dialed in sales process, if you don't know why you're not winning bids, if you don't know how to estimate properly, you know, kicking off this AI chatbot isn't going to help you and get you the results you actually really need. It might get you results, but what will make it 10x more leverage for your business is doing the work, understanding exactly why you close and how you stack up against the competition. How do you create a selling proposition for that client and then put that into the AI? And you're going to have tremendous results.
Absolutely. And, and AI is a great tool, but if you rely on it, you just get sucked down a rabbit hole of time
Yeah. Yeah.
that is,
100%.
making things worse. What are other you brought up the trades. The blue collar is a real hot topic right now. What are you seeing with a lot of the mom and pop, HVAC companies, plumbers, where these people are retiring, their kids aren't wanting to take over that business. It's a real hot topic right now. Are you seeing the big companies buying these things up, or are they just kind of going by the wayside?
Sadly, both. Sadly,
Yeah.
both. And I say both because I think one of the least sustainable, helpful things for an industry is for a giant private equity firm to like come in and buy all of them up and bundle them together. I
Yep.
just saw this happen in my corner of the world with veterinary clinics, windshield repair, HVAC companies, right? Private equity comes in, they buy them all up, they bundle them, they slash, for some quick gains, and then they sell them to a bigger fish. And they don't really care about the jobs, they don't care about the customers, they don't care about the people. Um, and I think that's really, really short-sighted and ultimately bad for our economy, especially on a local scale. And it starts there and then it becomes a wider spread issue. Um, the other thing is that there's just not enough buyers. So the crazy statistic that I saw recently was that $14 trillion with a T, trillion, is going to change hands in the next 10 years as the baby boomers retire. We know that most of these baby owners, many of these baby boomers are business owners. And then the scary statistic of all the businesses that are currently for sale, only 20 to 30% of them are actually going to sell. And it's not because they're not profitable, great businesses. It's because owner expectations are out of alignment with what their business can actually command, and they just don't understand the process. They don't know their options. They're uninformed, and so I feel like there's an obligation for people in younger generations to step up and start transitioning this. Because what happens? The alternative, if you try to sell your business and you don't sell, you slowly wind down, you close your doors, and that sounds kind of maybe neutral, like, yeah, I just stopped taking new clients and shut things down. That costs a ton of money. That's actually really hard on your employees and team. And that's, you've built something for years and now you're just gonna let it disappear into nothingness and not get any money for it. What a tremendously sad outcome for all that effort. So
Absolutely. And those, especially the trades, we need them more than ever.
yes.
We're in Billings, Montana, and it's the largest city in Montana. We've got about 120,000 people is all. And I bet there's three HVAC companies that do all the work. And if one of them goes away, that leaves a huge void in the market.
Mhm. Absolutely.
And we all want to, shop local and do those things, but those big companies come in and then all of a sudden their prices are so much cheaper. And now people are paying, $4 a gallon at the pump. Those, shopping local is great until it doesn't save you a bunch of money.
Yeah.
So what are some easy things to start that a business owner can do to start making their business marketable? And how soon should someone start? Take myself. I turn 50 next week. I feel like I've been in business a long time. I don't see an end in sight. It's just not how I'm wired. But at what point should I start thinking, okay, let's start making this a little prettier?
One of my favorite sayings that I come back to over and over again is, when was the best time to plant an oak tree?
Right. Yeah.
And the answer
30
is
years
25
ago.
years
Yeah.
ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the very
Right.
next best time is today. And so even if
Right.
you don't intend to sell forever, like your kids are going to take this over, you are going to, if you start building your business to sell today, you're going to build a business that is resilient so that when economic downturns happen, if the cost of lumber goes through the roof, you're going to be able to flex, not break. If you start building to sell today, you're going to remove all the weight off of your shoulders and start distributing it amongst systems and process and other team members. You're going to be in a position where if you got the golden goose opportunity in Montana to make a big play and all you needed was an investor to throw in some money, you would be an obvious investment. So again, building to sell doesn't mean you're going to sell or have to,
Right.
but it's a great way to start to create optionality in your business. And I'm gonna beat that drum um, every day. Some small things that you can start doing. Again, starting to document how you do things. You talked about the systems process, SOPs. Those are tremendously powerful. And again, I see this trap of, well, I've got this like giant notebook and everything is detailed out and nobody's going to read it. Nobody's going to like make use of it. And actually, only your one guy that's been with you for 12 years can actually do it like that. We need to
Mhm.
start simplifying and thinking about like how would we do this? I think about I built an electrical team from the ground up, right? I'm not going to write the SOPs for the journeyman. I'm going to write it for the apprentice. How could
Hmm.
apprentice show up and be look at this and be like, after 5 minutes, all right, I know what the how to stock the van now. It'll get me 80% of the way there on stocking the van versus painstakingly training every single apprentice every time, for hours on what goes into stocking a van. That's a really easy one that you can start doing day one. We've mentioned, the power of technology. That's another one. And I think people in the trades tend to get scared of AI. If you rely on Google relevancy, if you know that your customers find you by Googling, electrician near me, and then start calling down the line, you should invest in an AI voice agent. And that sounds scary. What is that? It's literally just a robot that answers your phone every time it rings. And every time it rings, they're going to get the contact information. They're going to get the pertinent details related to, what that customer needs. And then you can simply, have that voice say in a really helpful manner, you know what, based on what you've shared about your project, this is really interesting. We're going to have our subject matter expert give you a call back and dig into this a little bit deeper. Is tomorrow at 3 o'clock work for you? And it's tied into all this. And so you're not losing the personal touch. You're not replacing humans. You're just making sure that your subject matter expert isn't, writing down phone numbers and addresses. So I think that's a really,
I'm taking notes. This is great information. A couple of points on the AI voice agent that scares the heck out of me
Mhm.
because of what you said, because it takes the personality out of it is what I think. Because the one thing that I think makes our business successful is they get my sister who's our realtor and myself that's a realtor, and they get that real customer service. They get that that vibe. But I do think it's important to stop that bottleneck at me.
Mhm.
And but I feel that pain as well of letting go a little bit.
Yeah. And there's trade-offs to everything. And so what is the trade-off of you or your sister being the only one that answers the phone? Well, that maybe you're only talking to every seventh person that calls. And
Hmm.
that person that, you calls and you don't answer, or you're not available, or you're, helping another client and they call down the line could have been your next best customer. And or they're like disappointed because, they wanted to work with you. That's not a great experience. And so there's trade-offs. And again, you can be transparent. I think some people try to like pull the wool over their customers' eyes. Like, no, this isn't a robot. This isn't AI. This is a person. Like, there's no reason for that. You don't have to have that level of sophistication or anything. It's just, again, a friendly voice that answers the phone and is on brand always, never having a bad day, never hungover, never calls out
Hmm.
sick, and gets
Yep.
the information every time. One business owner I worked with spent an entire month of his life listening to recordings of phone calls, um, inbound phone calls to his business and understanding like what's going on here, what's wrong, where can we improve. And I guarantee, the person that he has is amazing, but they didn't always answer, and they often turned away business actually inadvertently, right? It's a restoration company, and they would person would call, hey, I've got a leak, and you're the restoration company, so I'm calling you. Oh, there's a leak, you need a plumber. Click. What? So
Yeah.
now the SOP is when somebody calls, you immediately get their contact information and the details of what's going on. And then you say, oh, you need a plumber. Here's a plumber that we love working with. They always take a good job of their client,
Yeah.
great care of their clients. And then once the water's shut off, call us back. And if we don't hear from you, we're going to call you in 2 days. That's the new SOP, right? And so now that's a hot lead. And he can keep track of that now and say, go to his favorite plumber and say, oh, Andy, we love working with you guys. We love to come in after you guys have fixed the leak. We get about, I don't know, 30 calls a month for things that require a plumber. What is that worth to you if I send you those things?
Yeah.
Let's work out a deal. So I send all of my inbounds. You're making money in two different ways now. Like,
Yep. You're getting that affiliate money. And in what you said about not having your AI voice agents not having a bad day, this literally just happened to me 2 weeks ago. Somebody called me and we were having 80 mile an hour winds, and I was crabby that day. He called me. I'm like, yeah, you're gonna have dust coming through your windows. We got 80 mile an hour winds. So then I have an upset customer who was happy otherwise. Where if we could, I could would have called him back, later or the next day. I could have been in the right mindset. And then I get calls from, landscapers looking for work, all of that kind of stuff. So, and that just takes my time. And that's stuff that's tough. And then back to the simple SOPs. I learned this like 7 or 8 years ago. I've been part of the Arte Syndicate with Andy Versella and Ed Milet. And Andy Versella talks about in his supplement stores, his SOPs are they're short, they're to the point, but it's how you unlock when you unlock the door, what lights you turn on, like how you do every step of the way, so you can plug and play those employees that just walk off the street,
Mhm.
and they can learn your way real easily.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So
You can
this is
supplement
a
if you fix it.
fantastic conversation. This is fun.
Good, good. I'm glad. I'm having fun too.
What kind of mindset do you think the builder, or not the builder, the business owner has to be in to get this process started?
There are two things that I would highlight that are tremendously important if you are considering selling your business. One is just accepting that change is inevitable. And even those business owners that dig in and they're like, no, we're never going to change, we're always going, it's your business is probably unrecognizable from how you were doing things even 3 years ago. So change happens. Embrace it. And understand that things that there's little things that you can do and should do to make your business much more marketable that doesn't have to feel like authentically you in order to still be good for the customer, good for your employees, and ultimately help you exit better. So embracing change is the one thing that I would highlight um, to start moving yourself into a better position to sell. The second thing is go from viewing a potential buyer as somebody to negotiate against to a collaborator. There's going to be tremendously more options and in general better outcomes when you position yourself. And this is what I do when I sit down with a potential seller. I don't sit across the table from them. If I'm physically with them, I'm going to try to sit right next to them and say, "This is my favorite part. This is where you and I we're going to get creative, Levi, and we're going to put our thinking hats on and like we're only limited by the ideas that we can come up with on how to solve this and create the most value for you and for me." And so approaching it from a collaborative perspective versus like I'm dug in, I'm not, I'm like you're just here to rip me off, and I'm going to negotiate and take every dime I can from you. Uh, that is reciprocated, and you rarely end up with a better deal that way.
Well, and it's funny. I love that you said that because if we'd have had this conversation 15 years ago, it depends on which ego hat I'd be wearing at that point. 15 years ago, I would have just been like all about the money. The bottom line would have been the culprit, but for that ego. But now, at almost being 50, being in business for 25 years, now the ego is kind of I really want to see my legacy carry on this business that I've poured my blood, sweat, and tears into. So that negative negotiation wouldn't be so negative because as a collaborator, I want to see this business keep going. So in 20 years, I could be like, yeah, I started that business and they're still kicking butt. Yeah,
Absolutely. Absolutely. And
yeah.
legacy does, I think, tend to become more prominent in many sellers' minds the longer they go, for sure.
Yeah, and that happens to us old guys, right? Like we start thinking about, are they going to remember us while we're gone? I love that you started the coaching because I just started coaching builders, helping them scale their business. And we're a month into that, and it's for me, it's been kind of a creative outlet, David, to where
Mm.
I pour everything into this thing. I'm having so much fun. And what made you kind of jump into that? You touched on it earlier, and how much fun are you having with that?
So, yes, I was talking to a number of business owners about buying their business, and I found myself saying, wait a second, why are you selling? You have ideas, you have energy, you have a great little business. Why are you selling? And the answer was, I'm stuck. When you kept digging, 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 I'm stuck. I don't know what else to do, so I'm selling. Look, if you know that you're burned out or you're ready to retire or you're ready to move, you have the next venture already planned out and you just need, to exit and roll that capital into the next thing, sell. But if you're just stuck, I think that is a suboptimal outcome for you. And you know, there are many paths to getting unstuck that many people don't venture to try, right? Like a key hire could get you unstuck. Again, working with a coach can get you unstuck. Going and finding a mentor could get you unstuck. There are so many different things you can do. And what I found is like there was just no awareness around that. And there's also it felt like selling your business was in this like kind of black box that nobody understands. And it's not that complicated, but navigating it without, clarity creates a ton of stress and people just like avoid it and it's one more thing that they have to deal with when they're already carrying a ton of stuff and wearing a lot of hats. And so what I found was I was helping them navigate that and doing it for free. And I thought, gosh, I love helping people. I want to help people, but maybe this is going to be valuable to somebody. Somebody that's like, okay, I don't think I want to sell now, or maybe not for 10 years, but I do want to understand what my options are and start building towards that. That's a tremendously exciting person for me to get to work with. And to your point, really fun. And, I've had the best conversations. I love learning about different businesses and the challenges. And so it's tremendously rewarding.
Absolutely. And what I think what holds a lot of people back is kind of like going to the accountant or going to the bank because it's a lot about the financials. And like I call it like that financial colonoscopy where you're worried about, the bottom line, and you shouldn't be spending money here, you shouldn't, that kind of stuff, to where it's not as fun as going and selling a job. Where, a lot of times we only do what we like to do, not what needs to be done. But if you can break it down into easy, simple steps, I think that's super powerful. What I and I don't Well, I don't think a lot of these tradesmen, I'll go back to because that's kind of my wheelhouse, is they don't know what they're sitting on. They think, oh, we're just a small business. No one's going to want to, buy that. What type of revenue goals do you think people should have when they start looking at a business to sell?
I'll lead with there is a buyer for every business. Now,
Yeah.
the caveat is I said there's a buyer. I didn't say that they were going to be looking for your business or even like potentially find it or be able to find it. And so, again, most, I think, Main Street business owners, those are people that are looking to buy a business and run it themselves, will be looking at businesses that have revenue north of 1 million, assuming, that there's, 20% profit margin, right? Or at the end of the day, many people are more cash flow buyers. So they're looking at the profit more than the revenue. And so you can make $13 million in revenue and still only take home $100,000. And that's not a very exciting business to anybody.
No.
So I've seen those companies and they're like, what? 13 million? Are you kidding me? Do you know how hard that is to build? I'm like, I respect that. I understand. And if you're only taking home six figures, barely six figures, there's not much to do with that. That's again, that fragile, risky business.
Mhm.
That said, and again, like there are $1 million businesses that are only 1 million in revenue and they have, 30% margins. That's extremely compelling. So I don't know that there's a revenue threshold because there's so many different types of buyers. To a Main Street buyer like me, I'm looking for a certain threshold. Usually it's like 1.3 million in revenue, at least 350,000 in cash flow. But think about your like a big construction GC. If you run a small framing company, maybe again they just want to bring in framing under their umbrella. And so they will look at a tiny little company that has like that core little crew of guys and just bring them on to add that capability overnight rather than start it themselves.
That's a powerful thing that you just said. A lot of those guys don't realize that that's even a possibility.
100%.
And yeah, and then the other thing that I'm finding, building from scratch to, 3 million, there was hurdles, and then you go from like 3 to 8. a completely different set of problems, and then as you keep growing, there's just different sets of problems and different things to jump through. So, if you're a construction company like 3 to 10 million, what's the one thing that you see like they should fix right now? Probably SOPs is my guess.
Well, if you've gotten above the three, I mean, depending on what you're selling, like there's
Yeah,
construction companies that one job is $3 million. So,
right, right.
but if you've made it to the 3 to 10 range, you probably didn't do it without having any kind of SOPs. I will tell you though, you cannot optimize your way past like that $3 million threshold by like making small improvements and tweaks. You're going to need a new playbook. And that means again that you need that growth mindset to lose sight of what's familiar, what you've become accustomed to, the way you've always done it, and do it entirely differently in many cases. And so, again, it's different. I'll draw it back to the electrical practice, right? It's different when you're the owner operator outfitting your van for the first time, and then you hire somebody and you want them to keep it stocked. And then it's different when you have 10 vans that you need to keep stocked. And the solution is you probably are going to start having a vendor that is going to be engaging in that process. And so again, if you are just like, I always stock my own van and it wasn't a problem, so they can do it. Well, you're gonna like, results will vary. Let me tell you that. And then when you
Yeah, for
you,
sure.
you multiply that across 10, that could be pretty disastrous.
Yeah. Let's move into a little bit of personal development. I know you and I are both big into that. What are some of the non-negotiables that you have in your daily life as you're building your business that keep you on the path that to hit the goals that you're looking for?
Yeah. First of all, I'm a Christian, so I believe that my mission comes from my creator. And that's the first thing that I start with. And even getting into coaching, buying businesses, I started with like, God, I think you gave me these gifts, this expertise, these experiences. Use it how you want. Um, then next is family. And that's not something that we're like, it's negotiable or they'll understand if I'm, like not super involved in their lives. And so that leads me to make some decisions, which first and foremost, there's two non-negotiable things on my calendar, which is dropping off my child at school and picking her up. I love that time with her and it's super precious. And so that goes into my calendar first, and then my admin schedules meetings around those accordingly. And in fact, that's why our
Love
meeting is
that.
when it is, because
Yep.
I'm picking her up from school. Um, Also before I do work, I'm reading my Bible and going to the gym. Those are two things that again helps me sustain this and ensure that I'm doing this, 3, 5, 10 years from now. And the last thing I would highlight, which I think is not super popular, bringing your own personality to the forefront. So many people that are in the business buying space are serious. They wear collared shirts or, maybe even a jacket, and they've got like a
Ties. Yep.
fancy bookcase behind them full of rich leather-bound books. I want to
Yep.
have fun, and I'm gonna have
Yep.
fun, and I'm gonna have doodles on my wall behind me, and I'm gonna wear a
Love it.
t-shirt and a hat. Like I
Yep.
got a mullet. Like I'm not gonna be
Yeah.
serious about this. And that is like really important to be sustainable.
I love that. And like I said before, like I've never been like the construction guy. I've never done the job side stuff. So I wear shorts 80% of the year, Birkenstocks, hoodies.
Yeah,
I just find even in when I'm selling, people they respond to that your personality better than something that you think that you should try to be.
100%.
And especially in that business buying space, that is a real stuffy area. So you're probably already killing it because people want to work with you.
You know what? And if they don't, totally okay. I don't need to be the person that helps you. There's a ton of people wearing suits that want to help you and will.
What is David's long-term vision for himself?
Yep. So, a couple things. I am looking to build a portfolio of businesses. And right now, it's very in vogue to buy businesses and sell them. And you can make a lot of money buying and selling businesses. I don't care about that. I want a portfolio of businesses and I love building and growing things. And so that's the vision, is to own a portfolio where people come and invest their time and talent in it. And if they want to grow professionally, there are multiple companies within the portfolio where they can go to and invest that time and get exposure to a different industry or a different opportunity entirely. That's something that's really important to me. I think one of the things that is on like my big vision board is creating 1,000 career opportunities for people,
That's awesome.
especially in my community. So things like that related to a portfolio of businesses.
I love that. I love that. We always end each episode with my favorite question, and we have a running tally of, and it didn't start out like this, but we just kept finding that men answered one way and women answered another. So, um, do you hate to lose or love to win more, and why?
My first instinct was love to win, but actually I was playing the stupidest card game last night and I lost to my 7-year-old abysmally. And I was so upset. I was unreasonably upset. In fact, my wife is still like today in the car, she was like, "Can we talk about last night's game?" And I was like, "No, don't talk about it. I know it wasn't reasonable." So I
I
think
didn't
I
act
hate
right.
losing. I don't have to
Yes.
win, but I don't want to lose.
And we're finding that most males hate to lose way more than they like to win.
Hmm.
And I grew up an athlete, wrestle, football, rugby, and my explanation for hating to lose is because when you grow up in that athletic, and you put in the work, when you put in the reps in business and anything in life, winning is an expectation. and and then when you lose, you should be upset about it, and then take the lessons and go back to the drawing board and figure out what you did wrong. So maybe you need to work on that card game.
I certainly need to work on that.
let's
Wait.
let's
Curious.
let's
I
get
have a last question for you, real quick. Then,
absolutely.
what was your position in rugby?
Oh, I played loose head prop.
Okay, hooker.
Old number one.
Okay, you're my buddy. You're
Yeah.
my buddy.
Oh, I love that. I love
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
We would have
So,
spent a lot of time together.
indeed. Yeah,
Yes, that was a good time in life.
yeah. Now I'm too old and fragile, but I
I
love
got
the
a new
game.
shoulder a couple years ago, so we're not doing any of that
Yeah.
anymore. So I am trying to get I have my oldest son is 24 and he was an athlete, and I'm trying to get him to go play because I think it's the relationships I made and just the fun was the best. So where did you play at?
I played in Seattle.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. Yeah. Yeah. So, well, David, thank you so much for coming on. Where can everybody find you? And I recommend everybody give him a call. I know I'm going to chat with him about structuring my business to get ready to sell in 30 years. And well, David, where can they find you at?
I'm most active on Instagram, and you can find me at the David Hori. And I also have a gift. I am doing a free webinar for business owners, and I've started giving away a lot of my best stuff on this podcast because Levi, you asked the best questions, but a lot of the stuff we get more in depth on in this webinar. It happens every Thursday, and so for anybody that's looking to either get another glimpse of what I can offer, or just curious about what's involved in selling and where do I start, even if I don't know if I want to sell, it's a great place to come and bring your questions and get a few answers. And I'm happy to share the link with you once we
Absolutely.
get
Yeah.
it done.
Share it with us as well. We'll put it in the link. In the YouTube video and on Instagram. And I'll definitely be recommending you to a lot of my business owner friends because this is in what's great is that this is an information that you're finding a lot. Like you can see, how to buy a business and all of, there's a lot all the Cody Sanchez's and everybody out there doing that, but not a lot of exit content. So I think go follow David on Instagram. It's a great follow, and I really appreciate you being on here in this conversation. This won't be the last one you and I are having.
Ah, I hope not. And thank you so much again for sharing your platform with me,
Yeah.
Levi.
Go work on that card game, my friend, and we'll chat very soon.
Will do.
Thank you guys.
Be well.